Toss-up number 1, science. Azomethynes are another name for the Schiff form of these substances for which Ralph Pearson created a classification system. These substances are defined as electron pair donors and as protein acceptors in the Lewis theory and the Bronsted-Lowry theory, respectively. For 10 points, name these substances that normally create solutions with pHs higher than 7, such as sodium hydroxide, that neutralize acids.
Toss-up number 2, mathematics. Pencil and paper ready. Janet needs to find the acute angle formed by two rays that start at the origin. The first ray passes through 1, 1, while the second ray passes through 1, square root of 3. She decides to separately compute the angle that each ray forms with the positive x-axis, and then subtract. For 10 points, find the acute angle formed by the two rays. Toss-up number 3, social studies. This president authorized Operation Ajax, which led to a coup against Mohammad Mossadegh, the prime minister of Iran. In his farewell address, he warned against the dangers of the military-industrial complex. In his 2 terms as president, he appointed Earl Warren to the Supreme Court and oversaw the end of the Korean War. For 10 points, name this president who succeeded Harry S. Truman. That's all. Toss-up number 4, fine arts. This artist used a portmanteau of his wife's name and the formula for DNA in a homage to Watson and Crick. This man showed his wife Gala nude in his dream caused by the flight of a bumblebee around a pomegranate 1 second before awakening. His best-known painting shows a group of ants on a timepiece. For 10, name the Spanish surrealist who included melting clocks in his The Persistence of Memory. Toss-up number 5, social studies. This man argued against tight lacing, strong drinks, and overly worn clothing in a treatise on raising children entitled Some Thoughts Concerning Education. He argued against the concept of innate ideas and suggested that the mind is a blank slate at birth in another work. For 10 points, name this English philosopher who wrote an essay concerning human understanding in the True Treatise of Government. Toss-up number 6, social studies. 2 men in this book walk backward to drape a blanket over their drunken, naked father. One event in this book is interrupted by an angel who points out a ram trapped in a bush. One man in this book puts a silver cup in his brother's baggage and interprets the dream of a pharaoh. That man is Joseph. The line, "In the beginning God created heaven and earth," opens, for 10 points, what first book of the Old Testament? Toss-up number 7, mathematics. These entities can be labeled as even or odd based on their number of transpositions or 2-element swaps. They are called derangements if all elements are out of order. Outside the group theory, this term does not imply the use of all elements in a set. The number of possible examples of them is found by dividing a factorial by another factorial. For 10 points, name these arrangements contrasted with combinations.
Toss-up 8, literature. This man was recognized by Helen of Troy while he visited Menelaus, whom he sought out along with Nestor on the advice of Athena disguised as Mentor. While visiting the swineherd Eumeneus, he realized that his father had finally returned. He issued a challenge to string a bow belonging to his father as part of a ploy to kill many suitors of his mother Penelope. For 10 points, name the son of Odysseus.
Toss-up number 9, science. Eye cell disease disrupts this organelle because of a defective phosphotransferase, while a red spot forms in the iris because of a hexosaminidase, deficiency here in the Tay-Sachs disease. Proteins destined for this organelle are tagged with mannose 6-phosphate. Their acidic pH is needed for their main function. For 10 points, name these organelles that digest macromolecules and cellular waste. Toss-up number 10, Fine Arts. An alto aria from part 2 of this work describes a man of sorrows and is entitled, He Was Despised. This work's first part opens with a tenor singing, comfort ye, my people. The audience traditionally stands for this work's best-known excerpt, which promises, He shall reign forever and ever. For 10 points, name this George Frideric Handel oratorio that includes the Hallelujah chorus. Toss-up number 11, science. A ceilometer measures the altitudes of these objects. Their formation requires temperatures below the dew point and condensation nuclei. On Jupiter, they are mainly composed of ammonia, while on Venus, they are mainly made of hydrogen sulfide and sulfuric acid. Silver iodide can seed these objects, promoting precipitation. For 10 points, name these objects that come in cirrus and cumulus forms and are found in the sky.
Toss-up number 12, science. In cases where this quantity depends on only a position, it can be defined as the negative gradient of a potential function. The time integral of this quantity is the impulse, and the CGS unit for it is the dyne. The dot product of this quantity and displacement gives work. Newton's third law posits equal and opposite pairs of, for 10 points, what physical quantity that equals mass times acceleration.
Toss-up number 13, science. Albert Einstein attempted to disprove this principle by considering a box lined with mirrors. This principle can be derived from the canonical commutation relation and the Cauchy-Schwarz inequality. It states that certain products of standard deviations must be at least h bar over 2. For 10 points, what is this principle that momentum and position cannot both be known exactly, first stated by Werner Heisenberg?
Toss-up number 14, social studies. This dynasty was restored with the help of the Red Eyebrows. It was briefly interrupted by the Xin dynasty ruled by Wang Mang. The Yellow Turban Rebellion occurred during this dynasty, which preceded the Three Kingdoms period and succeeded the Qin dynasty. For 10 points, name this Chinese dynasty that ruled from 206 BC to AD 220 and lends its name to the major ethnic group of China.
Toss-up number 15, literature. One author from this country wrote the novel My Brilliant Career. Another author from this homeland of Miles Franklin described a bet to transport a glass church in Oscar and Lucinda. Banjo Patterson wrote a folk ballad from this country about a jolly swagman who camps by a billabong. For 10 points, Peter Carey was born in what country, the setting of Waltzing Matilda? Toss-up number 16, social studies. This man's declaration of the Plan of Cuernavaca led to the resignation of Vice President Valentin Gomez Farias, and after his defeat of Isidro Barradas, he dubbed himself the victor of Tampico. He ordered the execution of James Fannon's troops in the Goliad Massacre, and Sam Houston defeated him at the 1836 Battle of San Jacinto. For 10 points, name this Mexican leader whose forces had earlier taken the Alamo. Toss-up number 17, mathematics. Pencil and paper ready. Ralph can accommodate 1,000 rabbits on his farm and needs to know in which month his rabbit population will exceed his capacity. He starts with 3 rabbits in month 1, and on the first day of each subsequent month, the number of rabbits triples. By computing out the powers of 3, he is able to determine for 10 points what month in which he first has more than 1,000 rabbits. Toss-up number 18, miscellaneous. This event's mascots were 2 one-eyed figures named Wenlock and Manville, and its motto was Inspire a Generation. Most of its activities took place in the lower Lehigh Valley. It officially began with the Isles of Wonder, a live-action ceremony directed by Danny Boyle. 302 gold medals were awarded for 10 points, what athletic event hosted by the United Kingdom the most recent Summer Olympics? Toss-up number 19, mathematics. Pencil and paper ready. Susie needs to find the volume of a right circular cone whose height is 3 and whose slant height is 4. Since the slant height is the hypotenuse of a right triangle whose legs are the height and the base radius, she applies the Pythagorean theorem to find the radius and recalls that the volume of a cone is 1/3 that of a similar cylinder. For 10 points, find the volume of the cone. Toss-up number 20, literature. This man wrote about a peddler working for George Washington during the Revolutionary War in a novel about Harvey Birch entitled The Spy. In the 5th and final novel in a series, he wrote of Tom Hutter being killed by the Hurons. In the first novel in that series by this author, Chingachgook grieves for his son, Uncas. For 10 points, name this author of The Deerslayer and The Last of the Mohicans who created Natty Bumppo. Toss-up number 21, literature. In one play by this author, Teach states the world is lies, while destroying items in a junk shop, and Donnie Dubrow schemes to rob the Lakeshore Drive home of a coin collector. The author of American Buffalo wrote a play that begins in a Chinese restaurant where John Williamson listens to the salesman Shelley Levine plead for hot real estate leads. For 10 points, name this playwright of Glengarry Glen Ross. Toss-up number 22, literature. In one poem by this author, the speaker hopes to get a swing in hell from a beastie whom he regards as a better man than I am. Another poem by this author refers to triumph and disaster as two impostors and advises a listener to keep your head when all about you are losing theirs. For 10 points, name this author of Gunga Din and If, who wrote about the panther Bagheera and the man cub Mowgli in The Jungle Book. Toss-up number 23, Fine Arts. This collection includes parts of the treasury of Atreus and fragments of the Propylaea, as well as a caryatid. Its most notable components are a 420-foot-long depiction of a religious procession and metopes showing a battle against centaurs. These sculptures are named for a British ambassador to the Ottoman Empire who removed them around 1800. For 10 points, name these marbles mostly taken from the Parthenon. Toss-up number 24, mathematics. This man's generalization of Fermat's little theorem uses a function that gives the number of positive integers less than and coprime to its input, called his totient, or phi function. This mathematician gave a formula relating the exponential and polar forms of complex numbers, a special case of which is that e to I pi equals -1. For 10 points, identify the Swiss mathematician whose namesake number is about 2.718.